I feel really, really good when I act like Christ, or when I listen to these readings and I, actually follow them and take them to heart. And then as soon as you start feeling good, that's sort of when it starts, and it's really hard to stop. My name is Colin Olney. I'm from Iowa City. I met Danny at a camp last summer in DC. Um, and I'm going to Ithaca College in the fall.
Okay, sweet. Now, what's your faith journey been like? Have you been like attending religious schools for most of your career? What does the faith life look like on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, yeah, I've been going to a Catholic school since I was in kindergarten, just since I was about 5. Um, but I didn't really care about my faith back then. It was just sort of my parents put me there. Um, and I don't know. I didn't really start caring about it until my sophomore year, maybe. That's when I really just felt called to go to mass, every week. Um, I don't really know why. I can't really put like a finger on like a reason why. I just felt called to go to mass, because whenever I would go, it always made me feel good. And then my junior year, we had a retreat called Kairos. I don't know if your school does it, or you know. Um, but it's basically a retreat for just juniors, and it's a 4-day um no phone retreat, just to sort of uh get closer with God and really, figure out like your faith. And then after that retreat, um I was even more, I felt even more called to God than I was before. So I really just started focusing on just being the best person that I could be in the eyes of God. Still going to mass every week, but also like just praying every day. Um, just really taking the time to think about like what I'm grateful for. And like, really just thinking about all the things that God has blessed me with in my life. And then this year, actually this past March, they had the Kairos for the juniors this year, and I was called back to be like a student leader. So it was me and 5 other of my friends who also went our junior year. And we just led all the juniors sort of through faith-based activities. We gave talks about our faith. And that also helped me to sort of a little bit rethink my faith. And that was really the time when I sort of got serious about it, when I really confirmed like, yeah, I want to be faithful throughout like college, and I want my faith to be a really big part of my life. And then I guess where I am today, I mean, I'm, praying every day and going to mass once a week, and just I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, what you mentioned some of the things that you're grateful for. What are some of those things that you're grateful for? I think
Um,
it's important to practice gratitude, you know.
yeah, no, it definitely is. Um, I guess just, very basic stuff. I'm grateful for, um that I have like an able mind and an able body. Um, I'm a very active person, and I like being active. I like running. I like working out. So I'm grateful, that God has blessed me with a body that is able to do that. And I guess I'm also grateful that he's blessed me with like an able mind, so that you know that I can think, that I can go to school, that I can learn. Um, and I guess I'm also grateful for all the people that he's put in my life, all my friends, my family. Um, And I guess I'm just grateful that I'm in the place where I am right now. We don't, my family and I, we don't really have to worry about, things like finances or, stuff like that. So that's really given me a lot of freedom, and I guess I'm grateful for that freedom too. Um, and I'm grateful that, I'm able to go to college in about a month. Um, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
Yeah, I got a lot of good stuff going for you. Now,
Yeah.
what's one of your, if you had to pick a favorite verse or a favorite passage, does anything come to mind?
Um, I don't know the name of it, but and I don't know it like I don't know, word for word, but it's the one where it's like every tongue shall confess, every knee shall bow, that like Christ is Lord or something along those lines. I don't know word for word. Um, I don't know. I just really, really like it because it really reminds you that like, yeah, God is above everything and everybody. And it reminds me that I should, realize that. But it's sort of making the statement like, yeah, everybody should say, God is real, Christ is Lord. Um, and yeah, I guess it really just establishes that again, God is like above everything and in charge of everything.
That's awesome. So, what's been, if you had to pick a struggle and a victory with your faith, what's been kind of one struggle or one victory throughout your faith journey? Maybe faith's kind of been tested, maybe faith's played a role in
Yeah.
something that worked out for you. So,
Well,
what's been one struggle and victory in your
struggle.
faith journey? Go ahead.
I can definitely think of last summer when my friend passed away. We were like, everybody was like, not everybody, a lot of people were like, God, why did you take this very talented, smart young man away from us? Um, and I still question that, occasionally, but I've come to realize that, yeah, although, it's very tragic and it's very sad that he passed, it's gotten me closer with a lot of people, and that has allowed me to grow as a person. I've gotten closer with his family. They're all very, very good people, and I'm glad that I, know them like I do today. But it's also allowed me to, because I was very close with him, that allowed me to sort of step in the leadership position, you know, and just take charge when it comes to like doing things for him. We just did a run for his 1 year. He died last year, July 12th. And the run was we ran a mile every hour for 24 hours. I did the full thing, and I, encouraged people to come and to run. We also did a for his birthday, which was in February. We did sort of a little tribute for him on our school's track, which I organized. So I feel like his passing has allowed me to sort of step in the leadership position a lot more. Um, and I feel like I've grown as a person because of that. And then what was the other one? A victory?
Yeah, what's
With
one
my
a
faith.
victory through faith? How faith's kind of helped you, succeed in a way.
Um, I guess the one that comes to mind, I guess this is like a victory. It's Kairos this past March when I was a leader. Um, Really, at the retreat, you really just embrace God and you embrace love, and sort of along with that, you embrace like vulnerability, and you know, I guess through that retreat, I've um I've forgiven a lot of people in my life who've like done me wrong, and I feel like I've come to peace with a lot of things through that retreat, or through that retreat, through God's love, and through really just embracing, and trusting God's plan, even if like you're vulnerable, and you feel like you're in like a very vulnerable place, just trusting that that God will make everything okay, and that God will protect you. Um, and I learned all of that through that retreat. Um, and that, yeah, sort of allowed me to make peace with things that were that brought me pain in the past. If that makes sense. I don't.
No, that's good. That's good. Going back to the to your struggle that you talked about, when I thought first thing that came to my mind was all things work together for good.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it was obviously hard, and as you mentioned, your community was kind of like, God, why'd you take our friend away from us? But I guess
Mm-hmm.
that kind of allowed you to step into a leadership role and do some things that you may not have done otherwise. So
Mm-hmm.
I find it, I don't want to say hopeful, but it is kind of hopeful in a way that even though a tragedy like that happened, good can still come out of it. Because I think sometimes it's hard to find the good out of a tragedy, if that
Yeah.
kind of makes sense. Kind of on the home stretch here, if somebody asked you, why do you love Jesus? What would you tell them?
Well, I just tell them, um, simply it's just because I feel the most myself, and I feel the most like happy in my own skin, if that makes sense, when I embrace God and embrace, Christ, when I go to mass and when I pray, and when I practice.
Okay, cool. Now
Yeah.
you touched on mass a little bit. What do you like most about mass? What is it kind of for people who may not know what a Catholic mass is? What do you like about it? What are some of the procedures, rituals, that type of stuff?
um well, I mean, mass is, we you go in, we there's usually two readings, and then there's the gospel, and then there's the homily, which is sort of the priest is just talking to the church, like, directly. He isn't like reading off anything. Then after that, um that's when they bring out the Eucharist, and then they sort of go through the whole procedure of like blessing it. They do like the Our Father, the sign of peace, and then they do the Eucharist, which you all get up and receive it, which at that point in the mass, it is the body of Christ, because it's been blessed. Um, and then after that, you just usually sing one more song, and then they do announcements, and then it ends. But my favorite part of the mass, probably the homily, just because it's usually it's very personal. It applies to just that church and to just that like audience. And for me, at least, it's a lot easier to sort of apply what the priest talks about in the homily to my like real life, because they talk about things that are like relevant. Like this past Sunday, I went to mass, and the priest talked about the Trump getting shot. And he talked about how like he went on like a whole thing about how like we shouldn't, there have been jokes about that. And he went on like this whole thing about how we shouldn't joke about that kind of stuff, because it just spreads like negativity. And that's a very negative situation. um and that allowed me to really just sit and think about, like, oh yeah, like, I've seen jokes, and I've seen stuff about that. Maybe I shouldn't, laugh at it, or maybe I shouldn't, send it to my friends. So yeah, it just allows me to really take the teachings of Christ and apply it to my life. a lot easier.
Okay, I like the personal touch on that. I think
Yeah.
that's it makes it more real and stuff.
Yeah.
Then kind of the last question here. You've kind of been, Catholic and involved in the faith your whole pretty much all your life. What would you say to people who, maybe unsure about their faith, maybe people that, have never started following Christ, or people that, have maybe started and kind of gone astray? What might you say to them?
Um, just, I would say just try going to mass, even if you think it's dumb or if you think there's really like no point to it. And, if it's all fake or whatever, just try going to mass, try just really listening to the readings and the gospel and what the priest is like saying at the mass. And I've seen a lot of people where they're not Catholic, or they are Catholic but they don't really take it seriously. When they really listen to what the priest says, and they really take it like to heart, they see mass and they see Christ in a whole new light. So I would say if you're unsure of your faith, or if you're sort of on the fence of, am I Catholic? Am I this? Am I that? Just go to mass, just really listen to the readings, to the gospel. And um, this is a little harder. Try to listen to what the priest says and apply it to your real life. Because usually at the end of mass, they say like go in peace, or go, glorify the, word of God. Really try doing those things. And it doesn't have to be the word of God specifically, but just try and spread like kindness in the way that, Christ did. And you might find like, hey, I feel really, really good when I act like Christ, or when I listen to these readings and I, actually follow them and take them to heart. And then as soon as you start feeling good, that's sort of when it starts, and it's really hard to stop.
That's good stuff. What's the best
Yeah.
part about being a Christian?
Um, I would say, well, for me, it really keeps me like sort of on track personally. I find it really, really hard to, like I have a routine every day that I try and follow. And for some reason, I find it a lot easier to follow that routine when I'm like, okay, when I like pray, and when I just embrace like God and his teachings, it sort of keeps me like on track with my life, if that makes sense. Also, the Christian like community is just so full of kindness and love, and most Christians are very just accepting of, let's just say you're like, you're a sinner. I mean, we're all sinners, but let's just say, you're like a recovering like addict, and you go to mass, and you really try to make like an effort to get better. The people in the church see that, and they in every example I've seen, they will support you endlessly until you are, the person that God made you to be. So I guess that's what I love most about the, Catholic community.
And that's not a bad reason at all, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate your time, Colin. Thanks for coming and chatting about your faith and your faith journey. And
Yeah,
hopefully,
of
we can
course.
have you back on again soon, man.
Yeah, man.